This is Angela with Bonnie Angela Jewelry, and we wanted to take you today to one of our absolutely favorite places to visit. We have been coming to Jekyll Island, Georgia. We came here probably the first time in about 1993, and we have been coming back every year since on our trips up the coast, or as often as we can. This is a teeny tiny little island. It is about 66 miles south of Savannah, Georgia, although it takes about an hour and 20 minutes to drive it. It's also just north of Jacksonville, Florida, probably about the same distance, I would imagine. And it is just a tiny, magnificent island. We're driving it here on this road from the Port of Brunswick, and if you Google Map Quest it, they will tell you to go in on Highway 17. But I always love to drive to the Port of Brunswick first and then come over the bridge, because it's just this beautiful road that when you're coming down, you see all the green grasslands. It's not really land, it's the seagrass where the turtle, it's the turtle nesting grounds for the sea turtles. People in this area are really, there's a huge love of turtles and saving the sea turtles, so that's a big deal. And then when you turn on this little road here, you'll see it takes you into the entrance highway to Jekyll Island. And then you'll drive a few more miles here before it takes you to the port of entry. There is a toll booth. It costs $8 a day right now to park on the island, and you just pay the little booth at the gates as you go in. But isn't this gorgeous? This beautiful tree, palm tree lined highway. And then if you're looking beyond that, you see all these beautiful, just vibrant green grasslands. It was kind of stormy today, so some days the sky is just beautiful, bright blue. And then once you come through the toll gates and make your way to this area, this is on the grounds of the original Jekyll Island Club, which, if you're familiar with the history, then you you know a lot about this place. But it's just a beautifully preserved area. All of the original trees that are native to the area are here. They're hanging with the Spanish moss. When the magnolias start blooming a little later in this season, there's beautiful magnolia trees too. And these little cottages that you see here are not actually the cottages on Jekyll Island. There are cottages here that are very famous, and I'll show you those later in this video. But these are the original little houses that are on the grounds of the Jekyll Island Club, that were built kind of as the town center. They would have a general store and a blacksmith and a cobbler and just kind of necessities. It's each little building kind of when the club was in its heyday, sort of made up the department store for the club and for the town. And some of them also were houses that the people who worked on the island and worked for the club full time may have lived in. Today, and in recent years, they have been retail stores of some sort that sort of cater to tourists. And the very first time we came here, we made a sale in one of those little yellow cottages. And then as you walk beyond the cottages, which you see here, the trail just goes all through the grounds. And this is all the grounds of the Jekyll Island Club. It takes up, I think, about a third of the island. So the island is very tiny. It's all very walkable. You can ride your bicycles. You can rent bicycles on the island. Some people who live on the island or who dock their yachts and sailboats here may have golf carts and different modes of transportation. But we're walking here with the kitties, and I just love these trees. They are absolutely everywhere all over this part of Georgia. And the island is just full of them with the hanging Spanish moss. So you'll see a lot of videos of trees here. But I really wanted to show people this. If you are if you have strong political leanings, I would say towards Trump and the Republicans, then you're probably very familiar with a darker history of the Jekyll Island Club. And so for people who've had a recent interest in this and who've never seen it, it's here. Anyone can come visit it. It's open, to the public. The club is actually a private resort. And you can actually rent rooms, hotel rooms, and stay here. I think currently they start around $200 a night. I'm sure they go up from there. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous place. This is one of the many islands up the coast. In fact, there's probably hundreds of little islands up the coast, all the way from Florida to Maine. And we've visited, excuse me, all of these islands for many, many years, selling our jewelry and our arts and crafts over the years. These have all been frequent stops. We first came to Jekyll Island in 1993, and I actually never knew the darker history of this island and this club until probably the past year or two. So because this place has always had such a special place in our lives and in our hearts, we've this is a place that is really a piece of our lives. It was fascinating to me to learn that history as well. These photos, I took all of these videos and photos walking through the ground, just as when you park coming into the island and then you take off walking through the club. And I will post the photos from the historical markers in another post because they tell a lot of interesting history and have a lot of interesting photos of the buildings and outbuildings and people who lived here and sort of started this island. In modern days, I should say. It's been inhabited since the earliest of times, and it had a prominence in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and even today. But the history of the island goes back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of it being inhabited. It was a plantation island, as many of the islands up the coast were. And it was also the site of the last slave ships that came into the United States. So it has a lot of little interesting tidbits of history to it. When you drive beyond the club, there's a road that goes around the perimeter of the island. And so if you come into it, the club is sort of the first stop if you're going clockwise. And then when you go, follow the trail around, and you can actually bike or walk the entire island too if you want. There's a little map right there. But you will go past through another historical site that is, I would say, more ancient, certainly not as polished, but you can stop and look at some things there. And then there is an RV park, a small one that is always packed. And then on the far end of the island, and then as you turn going backwards, so like if you're at 12 o'clock on the clock and you're going back towards the entrance, there are a number, there's a gorgeous, gorgeous sandy beach all the way. And then there's a lot of condos and B&B rentals and a few little hotels. So it is a place you can come and enjoy the summer and the sun and all that this area of Georgia has to offer. Some things to know if you are on foot in the area. I was in a store, one of the little stores today, who bought some of our jewelry, and one of the island residents told me that she had seen a great big snake sunning itself on the road, but she said, I don't think it's poisonous, but you tend to be in flip-flops around here, so good to know. They do also have the occasional alligator, so also a good thing to know in this part of the world, but it is a really, really incredibly gorgeous place. These are the islands along the barrier that make up the Intracoastal Waterway that people sail into in their sailboats and yachts. People sail up and down this coast seasonally and stop in these islands as ports or just, a few days part of their trip. So a lot of these little islands are not necessarily a vacation destination. but they are a place that you might want to come and spend a day or two. Important things to know on Jekyll Island: there are no grocery stores. There is also no gas stations. There are a few little boutique-y type things, but you need to come with your supplies, which anyone coming on a sailboat would. But if you're coming to stay at one of the hotels, you might not think of it. The nearest place where people would probably go for that kind of shopping would be Brunswick. There's the Port of Brunswick, which is also a port that people sail into. But Brunswick is on the mainland, so you take the bridge over, and then there is a Walmarts and grocery stores and that sort of thing. It's small, but it has resources. And then there is another island that you can take another bridge over to get to called St. Simon's, which is much more populated and very upscale. This is also very upscale, but St. Simon's even more so. It has a private airport and a lot of shopping, so it's a really fun area to come visit. When Bonnie and I first came here in 1993, it was our very first trip to the East Coast. We had been living in Oklahoma from Texas for a very short time, a couple of years, and we just decided to leave one day. We hated it. And we did what we always do. We loaded up our car, a tiny little Toyota Tercel, with our sewing machine and all of our crafts. We didn't really make jewelry so much then, but we had a line of home decor items that was sort of like our jewelry in that it was consistent, and we marketed it consistently, and a lot of stores carried it. But we had never really gone with it beyond like Missouri and Arkansas. And so when we decided to come to this coast, it was because the mother of a friend of mine had said, she was from Georgia, and she said, they would love your stuff in, for where I'm from, you should go there. And so we set out with a paper map and didn't know anybody, didn't have any money, and didn't have a clue what we were doing. And we had a really rough trip, a lot of fun, but done on no money and a lot of courage and a lot of faith and a lot of gumption. And so when we arrived in Jekyll Island that year, we actually arrived in Brunswick. And we had made a sale to a store in Brunswick, but I think the lady had us hold a check or something. We didn't have any money out of it for some reason. And she said, you should go over to Jekyll Island. And we were dead broke. We had no money. And it probably cost us our last dollar or two to get through the toll gate at that time. And it was late in the day, and we needed money. We needed to make a sale because we needed a place to stay that night. We literally didn't have any money. And we stopped in at one of the little yellow cottages that you saw in the first part of this video. A beautiful little store, and Bonnie was making these beautiful hand-painted dolls, among some other things we were doing at the time. And the lady was really interested in buying one or two of the dolls. And I remember just praying and praying that she would buy two, because I knew we could get a place to stay and eat if she bought two. If she bought one, we could probably get a place to stay. And she bought every doll Bonnie had. And so we actually got to spend a week on this island in the winter that year. I think it was January or February. We stayed at this really cute little 60s cinder block kind of Frank Lloyd Wright-ish motel that is no longer there. I think it got blown away in a hurricane. And there was a Denny's, which is on the far side of the island at that time, where the sandy beaches are. And to keep their employees working in the winter so they wouldn't have to leave the island, they gave food away basically at half price. And so we got to spend a whole week here. And it was just such a blessing and such a beautiful place. And so we have always made a point of coming back here every chance we get. And we try to do it at least once a year. So fun stories. So this is another one of the buildings that I believe is part of the Jekyll Island Club. It has certainly a history to it. And then, as I mentioned, excuse me, the little yellow cottages that you saw in the first part of this video are not the cottages. The cottages look more like this particular photo here. And they I would just like to point out that we always say Shuggy is the bossy one. Well, every time they get in the stroller, Sugar Britches and Cornbread have a little bit of a scuffle about who is in the driver's seat. And you notice Sugar Britches is always in the driver's seat. Right, Shuggy? So I'm the boss. Oh boy, Butterbean, what do you think? Say, I could go kitty cat around. Yeah, look at where we are. Say, oh boy, if I could just go get in that water, I could catch me some fish. Applejack used to come here and go fishing. He was a good fisherman. I tell you, those fish, they would jump out of the water and he'd catch them. You want to go fishing? We might go. Say, oh boy, oh Butterbean, I want to go fishing. What a fun thing for a kitty to do. Where are we going to go? Say, oh boy. Say, are we going to get to go fishing here? Say, we might. Oh, look at the boat. Look at that boat. Say, we're looking for a fishing spot. Where are we gonna go fishing, Butterbean? So the cottages, what they refer to as the cottages, actually belonged to the founding members of the Jekyll Island Club, who had yachts and their own private train cars that brought them over to the island. This photo here is sort of an example. Well, just going into the cottages, this is one of the cottages. So what is a cottage? Is, you know, basically a mansion of some sort. And there's several of them on the island still. In fact, they may all actually still be on the island. I've never done the actual tour, but we've been here enough that you kind of talk to people and get to know things. Now, this trail here is actually the trail in front of the Jekyll Island Club that leads down to the wharf and the water. The sandy beach is not on this side of the island. It's on the opposite side of the island where the hotels are. But the Jekyll Island Club does have its beautiful swimming pool. It may have, there are yacht harbors and boat harbors around the island, so they're very likely on this side of the island where the boats would be. And I imagine you can dock to go into the club from there. Never had my own boat, so I don't really have a reason to know that, but I do think that's how it's set up. They do have weddings on the island. They have croquet tournaments on these grounds here that you see, and various things. I'm sure they may do polo even, I don't know. You see a lot of people outside, you know, playing sort of old-fashioned games like croquet and that sort of thing at times. There are about 1,000 full-time residents on the island who probably work mostly for the resorts and the hotels. And there are a number of sort of brick ranch style houses that I would imagine were built in the 1950s and 60s. And so a lot of those belong to the permanent residents. And then some of them can also be rented as Airbnbs. And then a lot of people who have the boats have houses and condominiums up and down this coast. So there's that too. But anyway, I hope you enjoy the photos and enjoy this. I will be posting more stuff on the history and all of the historical markers as well. For anyone interested in that. It's a great place. If you ever get to come even to Savannah or to Jacksonville, Florida, this is a short drive, and you can visit in a couple of days. It's a great place to spend at Jekyll Island, St. Simon's Island, and Port of Brunswick. Oh boy, Butterbean, what do you think? Say, I could go kitty cat around. Yeah, look at where we are. Say, oh boy, if I could just go get in that water, I could catch me some fish. Applejack used to come here and go fishing. He was a good fisherman. I tell you, those fish, they would jump out of the water and he'd catch them. You want to go fishing? We might go. Say, oh boy, oh Butterbean, I want to go fishing. What a fun thing for a kitty to do. Where are we going to go?